All right, so we're recording this Sunday. It is Sunday,
Yeah.
right off of probably one of the most exciting, encouraging, hopeful sermons I've ever heard.
Yeah. You know, a lot of positivity in there.
Yeah.
All through, lots of jokes, lots of humor, really
Yeah.
spice it in.
Everybody walks out laughing, just jumping like, man, I can take on the day
Yeah.
after.
If you're jumping to the podcast and missed the talk on Sunday, I would highly recommend going back and catching the sarcasm we're throwing right now.
Yeah, it's called Hopeless. That is, I was like making the sermon notes on the app, and like doing all the things and like Hopeless. That like double checking, like this is our sermon series title, correct? Is Hopeless.
There is a cross out on the LESS part of Hopeless.
It is,
because that's kind of how it goes.
but you can't put that in the text. So like as I was doing, I was like, they'll see it's Ruth.
Yeah.
So we're doing our Ruth series. We just kicked it off this past Sunday, and as you read the book of Ruth, if you're familiar with the book of Ruth, it starts off dark, and I'll let you jump into that in just a bit. And it's like a sunrise. You know, it gets brighter and brighter. There's more and more things.
That's good.
That's kind of how I picture it a little bit. And so if today you're worn out after watching this sermon, or whenever you do get a chance to watch it, if you're chiming into the podcast, stick with us the next 4 weeks, and we'll get to hear the other side of
it. Gets better.
It gets better.
Encouraging.
So go ahead and give us a little bit of a rundown of kind of what chapter 1 was.
Yeah, so you jump into the story of Ruth, and you find out pretty early on, it's harsh, it's sad, right? Like at the very beginning, hey, they're in a famine, so the guy moves his family, and when he moves his family, they want to go temporary, but they're 10 years, and in the 10 years, he dies, and his sons get married, and then they die, and now we have some widows.
Yeah.
One widow who's older and has no hope, it feels like, but she hears that back in the homeland, back in Bethlehem, that things have gotten better. So she's going to go back, but she tells her daughter-in-laws, like, hey, you don't need to come back. Like, you're young enough to remarry. You don't need to come back with me. Like, I got nothing. I'm pretty hopeless. Like, you don't want to hitch your wagon to me. And one daughter does the practical thing, and one daughter-in-law, and she does, and she goes back. But Ruth, who the book is named after, it says that she clings to Naomi, the mother-in-law. And that language there, and we're introduced to this idea of hesed, which is this steadfast love, and it's kind of this theme that we see grow throughout the book of Ruth, and basically tells her, like, no, I'm all in with you, and gives this covenant language of it's you, I'm following after you, my God will be your God, my people are your people, and really goes into this. And so then they Naomi says okay, and they go back to Bethlehem. They go back to the homeland there, and everyone is like, "What in the world happened to Naomi? Like, what in the world?" Immediately, and it moves, and you see it ends on this. Like Naomi says, "Hey, don't call me Naomi anymore," which means like all this positive language too. Yeah, he says, "No, don't call me pleasant anymore," which is what it means. Call me bitter. I'm bitter because my life has become bitter. God has judged me in essence here, and yet. The chapter ends with the very last verse. It says they got to Bethlehem right in time for the barley harvest. So you start with famine, and the last verse, the last word that it ends on there is that harvest. So it's like you see like everything is just really harsh to start. And then this glimmer of rising up, this glimmer of hope in there. And what Naomi doesn't recognize is that hope just hitched her wagon to her. That Ruth saying, I'm with you, is where the hope comes from. Yeah. It's this beautiful story, and it begins to take off here next week in chapter 2.
Yeah. Yeah, I think when I was hearing this story, as you were talking, when you think about grief, there are lots of things about grief that are going to be difficult. People will process it differently, and all of that. I think the analogy you gave of the guy with the wife of 30 years that passed away, and that Tuesday night was like the hard thing because that was their movie night where they would go to a show and different things, and how he had a friend who came alongside him, and showed up every single Tuesday. I think that part of the grief is one of the hardest, where it's over time.
Yeah.
And everybody else typically will move on.
Right.
And you're left with the continuation that everything is different. You hear that from people a lot of, man, yeah, just everybody, they're with you, but then they eventually dwindle off and they go on with their day.
The months, the weeks, the holidays that come after.
It's the Orpas to some extent.
Sure,
It's different.
sure.
It's different.
It's not that they don't love. It's not that they don't care, but they go back to their life.
Correct.
That's not what Hesed is. That's not what Ruth does.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of this story.
I should have preached that, bro.
Oh man, that would have been so good. Yeah.
Running my notes by Trent now.
We needed a podcast. No, but I think when you've gone through grief or you've gone through heartache and you've had that person who gets it, because Ruth had that ability to see through. She's in her own grief too, and that's one of the things that sometimes I think gets overlooked. It's Naomi, but it's like, well, Ruth is grieving too. But when you have that person who sees, wow, I recognize your daily routine, the things that you know are different now, and I want to keep walking you through that. That impact is so significant, and we get a glimpse of it. We'll be talking about this with the series of Ruth all throughout. But yeah, I just that really stuck out to me as you were talking. It's just like, yeah, it's that everyday mundane grief that people have and heartache, and that's what makes what Ruth does so significant. But it's hard just sitting in the pews and I'm preaching, and it's all the sad stuff.
Yeah.
It's just all the hard, difficult pieces.
A lot of
Womp womps. We did get a couple of podcast questions that were sent in. We'll go with the first one, which is Naomi moving toward God an expression of the centered set theology I've heard about? So at Northpointe, we talk about centered set theology versus bounded set. How about you go ahead, give us a little bit of overview on what that is, what that means, and answer the question.
So centered set versus bounded set, it's not necessarily theology. It's just kind of a mindset, or I don't know what the right word is there for you, but you can apply this to lots of different things, including theology, which is how we do it. Bounded set theology is kind of the best place to start, because that says, here's the rules. This is what it takes to be inside of the club. A lot of these are like denominational sets. You'll see that to be a part of things that are there. You can think of it, an analogy I'll give is like, hey, if you're a fan of a sports team, what does that look like? You know, you're going to wear their gear. You're going to watch their games. You're going to know the players or the coaches' names to be a part of it. You're going to attend and be in there. You're going to be whatever it may be. Like, you know what it means to be a Lions fan, right? So you check those boxes. Centered set is different. Centered set is all about movement, which is a lot of what we see with Naomi in this, because she's moving towards. It doesn't mean that she's got everything figured out. It's just movement. And in essence, if you were to draw a picture, and at the very middle of that picture, you put a cross that represents Jesus, we'd have dots all over that picture, right? And the question is all about movement. Are you moving towards Jesus or away from Jesus? And if your dots are like mine, your dot towards Jesus kind of looks like this. Right, it's all over the map. Right, it's everywhere. But eventually, it is moving in directionally towards Jesus. That works well for us as a church, because if you look at our mission statement, it's to help all people move towards a life fully devoted to Jesus Christ. So it's recognition that the Spirit is moving, and we're all taking steps of growing towards Jesus. It's not about checking off boxes along the way. It's about sanctification. It's about becoming more to the image of Jesus Christ as we grow closer to Him, and the Spirit moves inside of our life. So that's. It'd be nice to be able to put a little bow on and say, have you checked off these boxes along the way? But we recognize, man, Scripture, we just see so much more centered set. We see about movement, that it's not about accomplishing or checking off boxes. I had this conversation with somebody today. Following Jesus is not something you accomplish. It's a relationship that you're stepping into. And that's what centered set theology, the core of it is really, it's relational language. And we see that so much with Naomi, because she's hurting. She would not check off a lot of boxes that people say are okay theologically, but she's taking steps to Jesus. She's taking really towards God, and ultimately what results in Jesus. And that's what matters. That's why God's not upset. He's not bothered, because He's not looking for her to check a box. It's a relational thing.
Yeah, there's a piece too that I think with bounded set theology, because I grew up bounded set theology. A lot of people have grown
if you grew up in church, there's a good
within,
chance.
you know. And there's moments where when you see things, you know, things happen in your life that just blow up, and it changes how you think about things. So it makes you question different things, good and bad. It's that whole, we just did the out of context series, but it's like those passages where it's like, I've always known it as this, why it's not that, it's those moments. And you said something again, it was one of your analogies at the very end, about the diary. It really stuck with me with the, I wasn't losing faith. I lost clarity.
Yeah.
And that quote stuck out to me because I think sometimes when we lose clarity, we fear that we're losing faith.
Sure.
And I think that's a major crossroads that people have in their walk with God. And it's like, no, it's okay to have questions as you go along.
Yeah.
It's okay to have something happen where everything's flipped upside down.
Yeah.
God can take that.
Right.
Like he can handle you being frustrated and angry and searching and asking questions. And
An all-knowing God is not intimidated by your questions.
yeah. And sometimes I've never been overseas, but I'm like, is that an American mentality or is that in the Western? Because I feel like we've created these things where it's no matter what you've gone through, you need to come and have perfect joy and be cleaned up and do. And it's just like, well, life is messy.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, even in the early temple periods, and you were on Jesus' time, they met in the temple, they read scripture, but there was a time that they asked questions.
Yeah, they do.
Everything was about questions as you were growing in your faith. So to grow up Jewish was to grow up asking questions because you were seeking to understand, not to tear down, but to understand, to find truth. And truth is so valuable. It's why Jesus says, I am the way, the life, and the truth.
Yeah.
And if you're seeking truth, it's okay to ask questions.
Yes, it is. And I think believers need to hear that. I think people and unbelievers, I think they need to hear, like, it's okay to live in that and to work through that. Especially when life just flips upside down, because people respond to grief in so many different ways. And then they feel like, well, I'm lost because now I don't have all the answers I used to have. Right. There was a guy at our last church, and he talked a lot about how sometimes the deeper he got into scripture and reading the Bible, he's just like, I feel like I know less than I ever known. I have so many questions because when you really do oh, what does that mean? And then off you go, and
that's why I think it's so important not to read the Bible, but study
scripture.
That's very different because it's going to take you down different rabbit trails. I was having another conversation this morning about that. And because they were asking me, how do you study scripture then? And for me, it all starts with slowing down.
Yeah.
Right. Because we're so easy once again to accomplish things, but once again, following Jesus is relational. It's not about accomplishing anything. Yeah. And so you don't need to accomplish reading the Bible. You need to let it saturate over top of you. And as you read scripture, literally slower, I would encourage slower, but also you're going to go through the Bible slower because there's going to be things that should cause you to ask questions. That should cause you to want to dive deeper. What does this mean? Why does it say this? Why is it silent about this? That's what studying scripture looks like.
Yeah, I think I've actually been learning, this sounds kind of weird. There's so many different ways to read the Bible. And you can read it in small increments and you can read it into long increments. Yep. You can do the deep dive studies or take everything from a more broad thing. And every way that you go about it, you learn different pieces. Because I used to always do the year Bible plan and fail every single time.
I've
never accomplished it, never made it through it. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go through it and do it, not because I was one of those, if I get behind, now I'm stressed. Yep. And then I eventually give up. Whereas I'm just going to go do it because I want to see and I'm having a blast with it. Yeah. Because I don't feel that urgency and that pressure of oh, well, I missed a couple of days and now I feel the Christian guilt,
Yeah, right.
I can actually stop and look at it. And Ruth is one of those books I think you need to slow down to read because there's so many things there. There's lots of things within the context of what you read that will take you across all kinds of deep dives. There are things we will talk about in our sermons we can't go over from the stage because there's so much there.
Well, the context of just it being in
cultural
the
things,
judges.
Just the cultural things that are there. The judges. That part that you brought up, was really good. Of recognizing it's a different period. They don't have kings. It's not. We're not in that period. There's a lot happening in Israel at this time. And then we see this, this story that's giving you these glimpses of later. I don't know. It's right in the middle, really, of Israelite culture, and so many things happening. And with that, another question that we had is, I love this. I love how this is worded. What's the crazy stuff in verse 11? It's like,
Yeah.
I feel like we're gonna get a lot. What's this crazy stuff in the book of Ruth? What does that even mean? And
what in the world?
they had to marry their dead husband's brother? Question mark.
Yeah. Stuff.
So let's go ahead and read this for you. Verse 11, it says this. It says, "But Naomi said, 'Turn back, my daughters. Why will you go with me? Have I yet sons in my womb that they may become your husbands?'"
Yeah. So the culture matters as a piece of that. I think there's two things that are there. One, Naomi is just kind of petitioning this idea of like, hey, you're not committed to me anymore at this point in time.
Yeah.
Your husbands have died. I don't have any more sons. You can't like come back into my family in any way. Like I'm not having any more kids.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So I think that's one aspect. The other aspect of it is there's this Redeemer principle underneath that when a husband would die, if he had brothers that were of age, that brother would kind of take on that widow and provide for to make sure that she was not vulnerable anymore. It's this beautiful thing that say if Ruth's husband had died, Orpah's husband would have taken her on to provide for her, to care for her, to have lineage that goes through for his brother's line, like all of those things. And it was just a way of continuing on. And we'll talk about this a little bit more as we get into
next
the book
week.
of Ruth. Yeah, the next couple of weeks especially, we're going to get into it, which is why we didn't really dive into that today as much. But it's this way of providing, this Redeemer way of providing that we see in Scripture, and is really just shows how God values and cares for the vulnerable.
Yeah.
Like he built into laws and ways for that to be a thing along the way. So it's we'll get into it a little bit more in the next few weeks, but yeah, that's a fun question.
Yeah.
Feels kind of weird when you just look at that one verse, but once again, context is key. And when you know the social context, when you know the lifestyle that people lived and the laws that they had, and it makes more sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And again, there are lots of those type of things throughout this whole book where it's kind of like, okay, that seems interesting. Maybe I'll put the question in later on. It's like where Ruth lays by Boaz's feet.
Oh yeah.
It's like, why did she have to move the blanket off his feet?
Yeah.
I'm like, that's going to be a podcast question down the road. And we'll answer that later on.
Yeah. But, it's called a kinsman redeemer. I wanted to look the word up real quick because I couldn't remember the first part.
Yep.
Kinsman redeemer.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that, again, next week we'll be getting into a lot more of what that is, what that looks like.
But Google it now. Go ahead and search it on your own.
Feel free, and then see
your own studying of Scripture. There you go.
See if Google's right or we are. No. But no, I think when you look at this story, though, again, we talk about Orpah, we talk about Ruth, we talk about Naomi. You have these three women who are just absolutely devastated by everything that's going on. I don't know. I think that there's so much there to just for us to be able to take opportunities to even just think through who in our own life is going through stuff. You gave a challenge at the end. Just about action steps that we can take.
Yeah.
Maybe we can share that, with our whoever's watching the podcast still. They might be like, oh, we're bored. No, with people in your life that you're just like, man, I haven't checked up on so-and-so. Like, I just want to encourage you, like, make a list of people that you're like, I wonder how they're doing with this. Those steps they mean the world to those people. To be seen, for Naomi to be seen, not just be seen, but like this person's Ruth is walking with her. Those are life-changing moments, I think, for people.
Sure.
And just want to encourage you, find those opportunities. Sometimes we think, well, how could I ever be used by God? What could I ever do? And it's like, man, those things right there, they might be right in front of you in ways that you've just never thought. But
I always tell, obviously in ministry, do a lot of funerals and things like that. I always tell people who attend the funeral, hey, go ahead and bring your phone out right now and just put a calendar reminder.
Yeah.
For a few weeks, a few months, around the holidays, to just check in with this family that's experienced some loss, because it means the world.
It does.
To be able to have that. That's what Hesed looks like, is to do that. And I get we all get busy. It's easy to be an Orpah, and once again, Scripture doesn't blame her for going back to her life in a lot of ways, because that's the normal thing to do. But if you want to have Hesed in your life, if you want to make a difference in someone's world when they're going through a hard time, funerals are one thing, grief, loss, all that. But even just people who are going through medical hardships, financial hardships, relational hardships, just show up.
Yeah.
Just be there. You don't have to have answers. Hesed means just showing up. So just being able to stand in the pain with somebody so that they're not alone.
Yeah.
Makes all the difference in the world. Even especially in those moments where they don't have anything they can offer back to you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such a simple way to just love people well.
The flip side of that, as I would encourage, and what Ruth really points out, if you're going through that famine season in your life, if you're struggling through it, that last verse of the harvest is coming. God is working behind the scenes so often in ways that we don't know, but he's a big God, and he's doing things that you may not be aware of, but he's providing back in the house of bread in the Bethlehem. And maybe you just got to turn back. You got to leave Moab to come back to it. I'd encourage, just make that movement, knowing that God is providing, God is able, God is working, he is doing things behind the scenes, and there's going to be incredible opportunity. The story's not over yet.
Yeah, that's great. Just taking steps towards God, just keep moving. Yeah, he basically ended it with Finding Nemo. Just keep swimming. Well, hey, we had one more podcast question. This is not necessarily to do with Ruth.
Yeah.
But I was talking about writing.
You did mid-service today.
I did mid-service. It's been a minute because I haven't done that a little bit, but and everybody could tell. My wife was like, "You were a little rusty this week." I'm like, So I had everybody say, "Hey, go ahead and fill out those black books. Use cursive. You probably haven't used that since you've written a check." And so the podcast question is, "What is a check?" A check is it's currency that you can use. Just watch the movie Blank Check. You'll figure it out.
The movie Blank Check. Oh,
just check it out.
There's the 90s for you. When's the last time you wrote a check?
Recently. We had our basement finished.
Oh yeah.
And so there were too many checks.
Yeah. You wrote a lot of checks.
A lot of checks for that.
Yeah. I think I write maybe 2 or 3 a year, and I know it's tax season, so I live in the city of Lansing, so I have to pay the city of Lansing taxes every year.
Yeah.
Income tax piece of it. And that's like, I know where my checkbook is because of my taxes, and I just kind of keep it in that one spot because I'm always writing one every year.
Yeah, it doesn't happen often. It is
usually
like,
I get a couple more.
Will this be phased out at some point?
Yeah.
I don't know.
The penny just lost, so.
The penny did just get taken away, which take it or leave it. I'll still pick it up a penny every time I see one on the ground. It's like, this is going to be worth thousands someday. Yeah. Well, hey, we're so glad that you decided to check out the podcast.
We got a special guest coming up.
We have a special guest coming up next week because Sylvia she just had a baby, and she is living the motherhood dream.
The motherhood dream.
Which is sleep deprivation.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
And so she still will not be here to host. So for those of you who
congratulations.
Congrats.
You guys are doing great. Yeah. We got to talk to him a little bit because they're in our life group, so we got to chat with her and her husband Jake.
I'm sure everybody
see the baby.
Everybody's so anxious. She should bring the pill.
That's what I said. I said viewership's going to go up if the baby joins the
Absolutely.
podcast.
It is going down significantly since I have taken over and you.
Yeah. We'll get a little baby camera so that she can just click it on and just see what the baby's doing.
That's right.
People love that.
I think that.
Yeah, but special guest coming up next week.
Yeah. So we have to
tune in, find out who that is.
See who it is. All right. We'll catch you later. That was a great exit.
Later.
All right. Bye.